Hey guys, my name is Marissa. I am a 4/6 emotional projector on the Cross of Planning, and I am here to talk about human design and particularly go back to the foundations, the functions of the centers for some new people who I've recently gotten some recognition and invitations from that don't know anything about human design. So I am going to try to assimilate everything in the easiest way possible, and I'm going to start with the centers and particularly the awareness centers. And today I'm doing the spleen. Now, there are three awareness centers, which are the spleen, which is on the left hand side. This is my chart. My spleen is undefined, which means I am receptive to this energy and I can amplify and distort this energy. And any center that you have open, what you hear in your mind is from those open centers. So it is not your mind is the spokesperson for the not self, right? Um, so I can really amplify fear with my open spleen. So the spleen, like I said, it's an awareness center, and it's the oldest, most primitive center we have. I put up the mandala here because I think mastering the wheel is really important. And you can see in the quarter of duality, purpose fulfilled through relationships, all of the splenic gates, all seven splenic gates run in a row, and from Libra to Scorpio, and we don't really see that anywhere else. So that's very it's interesting because the spleen is about the root of our intelligence, actually coming from the 50th gate and kind of filtering out to the rest of the gates in the spleen. Now, the spleen is not just the physical spleen when we talk about the physiology, but it's the lymphatic system. It's like little noses all throughout our body, like cleaning and purifying toxins and all of that. It's our immune system. So, so the spleen gates are the gates of fear. And you could also say that the gates in the ajna and the solar plexus, the other awareness centers, are also fear, but the solar plexus is more um, anxiety or nervousness, and the ajna is more anxiety. But today we're just going to be doing the spleen. So another interesting thing in the mandala, before the seven gates of the spleen, you see the 46th gate, which is part of the identity center, but it is the lead gate for that group of eight gates, which are the rest are all in the spleen. Um, and the 46 is all about the love of the body, which shows that the spleen is really about the body and body awareness. Okay. So it's about survival fears to keep us alive. We have evolved very much from running from tigers and having these kinds of existential fears that we need to be aware of. So therefore, especially if you have an open spleen, you can be amplifying and distorting all kinds of irrational fears, like fears of making a YouTube video or reaching out to a certain person, all kinds of irrational fears. So for me, this was very helpful to know that those fears really are not mine. They're not mine, and I don't need to live in those fears. However, after I explain what all of these fears are, I'll tell you a little bit of my story with my open spleen and how it really is strong conditioner. So, the spleen is a very complex survival mechanism. It, it's Okay, the spleen is very limited in frequency because it's very existential, meaning in the now. Like if your authority is your spleen, you're gonna either hear that voice or get that feeling only once. It's not gonna come back and say like, "Hey, I told you if we made a left turn, you were gonna get into an accident." It won't. It won't say it again. Only once. It is very existential. So it's moment by moment. So one moment, a person might come up to you and your spleen might say no, and 10 minutes later, your spleen could say yes. It's moment to moment of what your spleen, if it's defined, feels is healthy to keep you alive. Now, if it's undefined, you're not gonna you're not gonna be listening to that because it's gonna be amplifying and distorting. but you're going to decondition all of your fears and eventually gain huge wisdom potential in learning how to be healthy and care for your body. Um, so the mind is so busy rationalizing everything, and the mind doesn't understand the spleen. It doesn't like the spleen. It doesn't understand its criteria about because it's about health and safety. Um, it's a moment by moment protection system. It knows what's healthy for you or not in terms of your survival if you are defined. Now, if you're undefined, the question you want to ask yourself is, what am I still holding on to that is not good for me? Because what happens with an open spleen is we want to, we're conditioned to gravitate towards people with a defined spleen to make us feel safe. Because a lot of times with an undefined spleen, we don't feel that great every day. And um, so, yeah, the conditioning is super, super strong. And I'm going to go into my story a little bit about it. But so the gates of fear, here we go. So we're going to go into gate 18. Um, and now, by the way, for any of you who are brand new to this, the spleen is in my chart here, um, on the bottom left hand side. It's not colored in on mine, and it yeah, has many connections to the root, which is a motor, to the throat, which is for communication. It's yeah, to the ego, which is another motor. So there's different things in the system like circuitry and electromagnetics that I will get into um, in different videos. But so yeah, I just want to break down and assimilate piece by piece for you. And I'll go much deeper into the gates as well. But this is just a quick video about the fears and the nature of the spleen, right? So the gate 18. Okay, this is the fear of authority or challenging authority, starting with the parents. My daughter has this gate. Oh my gosh. The gate of correction. Yeah, she's always correcting me and challenging me and authorities. It's very interesting. It's really interesting to see the mechanics in children before they are conditioned by society and to see their true selves. And yeah, it's she's a very powerful little manifester, and I do not want her to be conditioned out of her power. So gate 28, this is the gate of the game player. This is the fear of death, but it's really not the fear of death. It's really the fear of dying without purpose, dying without having found your purpose or something worth fighting for. But on the other side of this fear, after you've deconditioned and you've gained your wisdom potential, because that's truly what the openness is. It's like the openness is what you're receptive to, what you're encountering with other people in the world. Um, while your definition is what you are, your essence, and what you're broadcasting. So, 28th gate, the fear of, I'm sorry, I said that right. But on the other side, the wisdom potential for this, if you're open, it's it's an instinct instead of a fear of what's worth fighting for and which risks are worth taking. And for gate 18, I'm sorry, I should have said on the other side, the wisdom potential of that fear of authority is the instinct for what can be fixed and made better in the world around you, as that is um, part of the stream of taste. Um, logic, logic. And the 28th, like I just said about the fear of death or fearing dying without purpose, that is individual circuitry. Well, the 18 is collective logic. And then the 32 is which um, the gate of duration or continuity, and it's the fear of failure. And could be the fear of failure so much that you don't even start things. But on the other side of this fear, it could be an instinct for knowing um, what may work and what may not work, what is sustainable. Yeah. Okay, then gate 50, which is the source of all intelligence. It's the gate of values, the laws. This is the fear of taking on too much responsibility. And on the other side of that fear could be a very powerful and intuitive knowing about the right responsibilities and commitments to take on. Gate 44. This is the only gate that I have hanging from my spleen, my open spleen. So for me to experience the spleen, it's really when I get the 44 connects to the other side, the 26, which is um, the gate of the egoist. And the channel of surrender or the channel of the transmitter. Is a tribal gate. Um, it is the fear that baggage will catch up with you and that you will repeat mistakes. It's the fear of the past. And on the other side of this fear is an ability to spot patterns from the past so that you and others don't have to repeat past mistakes. And I love that because even before I got into human design, I always considered myself like a limiting belief buster and yeah, going into helping people go into their pasts and um, seeing what is irrational. And so that's actually part of my wisdom potential, my money receptors, because it's an open center with a hanging gate. So if you have any open centers with a hanging gate, that is your greatest wisdom potential and money receptors as far as the money courses in human design go. So, gate 57, this is the fear of the future and the unknown. And it's called the gentle intuitive clarity. It's the most intuitive gate in the chart. Um, so on the other side of this fear of fear of tomorrow, future, and the unknown is an intuitive sense of what's happening in the present moment, and an intuitive sense that can help you navigate the unknown and move through uncertainties in the road ahead. So it really gives you courage, if especially if you have this defined and you're in a not self state. You can be really courageous, and also if you're undefined, you can really learn about courage and obviously health, because this all has to do with the love of the body from that lead hexagram, the 46. That's actually in the G center. So 48. This is the fear of inadequacy and not having enough depth. On the other side of this fear is um, having the depth or and a powerful potential for mastery when you decide to push through the fear and have the courage to take the first step. So those are the 7 fears of the spleen, and what's on the other side of them as well. Um, but yeah, so the spleen is a huge source of fear, driving us to be intelligent because it's driving us to keep us alive. And the fear is not going to be a problem if you are in alignment. But most people are just not in alignment. And if you have any open awareness centers, like I said, it's going to be amplified in the mind. And the whole purpose of the system is to get out of the mind, because the mind is the spokesperson for the not self. It is where our receptivity is able to be communicated. And that's why our openness actually is um, our source of wisdom for the other, and you know, our outer authority, being able to speak about these things. And so another few things about the spleen. Ra had said if you have an open spleen, um, especially for parents out there, and you have open spleen children, to treat them holistically. But he said for a defined spleen, people to give them all the pharmaceuticals that they ask for. I don't know now in this day and age with the COVID shots, so don't. This is not medical advice. I'm just repeating what Ra had said and then putting in my input on the new shots and things that have came out. Um, so now, if you have a defined spleen, it's like you're not even going to notice it. But if you have an undefined spleen, you're always going to notice it. You're always going to be on alert because you're it's like an alarm system. Like I was saying before, it's like throughout the entire body. It's the lymphatic system, and um, there's like little noses all throughout the body, and goosebumps and all of that kind of stuff come from this. What else do I want to say about the spleen here? Um, well, so if it's undefined, it means you just don't have it you don't have consistent, reliable access to it, and you could amplify and distort it. Um, so sometimes with an open spleen, we don't always feel good, and we it the alarm system literally picks up on like every little pain or everything. It's like on high alert, like when things sometimes like I'll think I need to go to the doctor for something that is just passing through, which is um that's kind of just how the not self spleen can work. um but yeah, the wisdom potential is to become very aware of health, and so you want to ask yourself, are you still holding on to what's not good for you if you have an open spleen? And so I'm going to share a little bit about my story with my open spleen and how much of a conditioner this center was. So, okay. So you see I have the 44th gate hanging off the spleen. That's the only gate I have hanging off the spleen. And you see that I also have the off the throat. I have the 16th gate pointing to the spleen. So that is called a mental conditioner. Um, as well as the 50 or the 10, which can connect to the 57. But my main points right here are going to have to do with my 44 in the spleen connecting to the 26, and my 16 in the throat connecting to my mother's 48 and her defined spleen. So growing up, both of my parents had defined spleens. Um, Ra says the worst thing that you could do for an undefined spleen child is to say go to your room, and because once you go to your room and you have undefined spleen, you don't feel safe anymore, and you're just looking for that security. The spleen just has this secure feeling that makes us feel good. It just really makes us feel good. So it's physiological conditioning. Um, I mean, especially for me, because you can see that the gates hanging off it or going towards it are all in red, which is my physiology. So my mom had the 48th gate and I have the 16. So that creates a channel. And so between us, that would create the defined spleen. And she has her spleen defined already. And she also has the 26th gate, which connects to my 44. So the 48 being a mental conditioner for me, um, the fear of inadequacy, oh man, that really, really is something to look into, the mental conditioners, because I have felt inadequate my whole life. And when I first got into human design and saw I didn't have that gate, but I did have the other half, I knew right away that my mom had that other half. And I pulled her chart and she did. And also, she has the full channel, which compromises me with the 44 running from the spleen to the ego, the 4426. Um, and so, the physiological conditioning of the spleen, I always wanted to be near my mom. She wasn't, looking back on it, like she wasn't emotionally available. She wasn't abusive or anything, but like this can also work in that way. Like imagine if somebody has an undefined spleen as a child and the parents are abusive, they are going to stay and just always want to be with the parents no matter what, because it is giving that splenic safety feeling and that feel good feeling. And it is very, very, very deep conditioning. Any awareness center is extremely deep conditioning. And Yeah, so for me, I guess once I subconsciously knew that my mom was not emotionally available, and I needed more than that, just feeling of safety from her defined spleen, I started, dating and um, things like that. And all of the men that I've been with have defined spleens, and usually they have the 26th gate connecting to my 44, and sometimes the 48 connecting to the 16 in the throat. So the conditioning is real, and what I didn't know any of this information at the time, but my daughter's father, he passed away almost 4 years ago, and he had a defined spleen, and he was a splenic manifester, and I, you know, I just felt this instant connection with, my whole life when I was dating people. Like I was always in long relationships and felt an instant connection. And it was always this spleen, right? And it just helps me feel safe. But that's the not self, right? Um, Now, if you get in a relationship and you have a defined spleen with somebody, I mean, with yeah, if you're undefined and you get in a relationship with somebody who's defined, and you're living in alignment, that can be great. That can be great conditioning. You guys can work together. Um, but if you're not in alignment and you have an undefined spleen, it can be really, really dangerous. Like I said, especially because abuse and all kinds of things like that can go on. And the undefined spleen just wants to feel safe. So after they leave their abusive parents, they're going to go and get into an abusive relationship, most likely, um, with somebody with a defined spleen. They're always going to be looking for that spleen. And, therapy and things can't help this. Like intellectualizing can't help this. This knowledge is the awareness, but it's not the answer. And the answer is to work with this knowledge in your life and live your design. Um, and yeah, that's the answer, to live your design, to go through this process. And um, yeah, but this is all just the awareness, the initial awareness to start working with it. But let me tell you that when my fiance passed away, I did not process my trauma for a long time. And the best way I could explain how I felt was I just did not feel safe. And it was not that I didn't feel safe, like that people were going to come after me or anything rational, or there was nothing. It was just I didn't feel safe. My body didn't feel safe. My nervous system, my physiology didn't feel safe. And even still, sometimes I feel that lack, that insecurity and all that kind of stuff. But now I know that it's my undefined spleen talking. So yeah, that's about all I want to say about the spleen. And when I say awareness center, I just want to explain that a little bit. Like the three awareness centers, the solar plexus is a motor as well, and it's a developing awareness center. But the difference is that the motors are like the root center on the bottom here, the sacral center, which is like a power battery for work and reproduction and life force energy. And the solar plexus is the emotional solar plexus, the emotional wave, is a motor. It's an emotional motor. And then the ego is a motor. It's a work to rest motor. So they're all different kinds of motors. The root is very it's about adrenaline and drive and stamina and all different kinds. Yeah, so there's different streams that the motors can take you through a motor, like to an awareness center, to the throat for expression. Like that's the only way that the spleen can really get expression. Like for example, the channel, the 1858, which is about correcting, and it's the stream of taste, and it goes up to the 4816. The only way that this awareness center, the spleen here, if you have like the 18th gate or can get, or the 48th gate can get um, energy to the throat is if you get a root connection to the spleen and then a spleen connection to the throat, or else the awareness can't express. And yeah, that was really hard for me for a while to even be able to express what I was feeling and put it into the simple words that was a feeling of lack of safety in my physiology. So that's all I really want to say about the spleen right now and my personal experience of the spleen. Um, as you guys go through your charts and see what you have open and defined, please let me know any realizations or ahas you're having. And then, yeah, we'll work together a little bit more on individually and work with the other centers and everything else in a holistic way. But this is just one little piece of a very, very big system. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.